All right, welcome back to College Football Addiction. I've got Couz from Couz's Corner on to talk a little bit about the Mountaineers, their coaching search, this opening that they've got. Couz, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, TJ. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for taking a few minutes and joining us today. Everybody go make
Absolutely.
sure we'll link in the description Couz's Corner on YouTube. I know you do a really good job with West Virginia info, and there is certainly some questions that we have about everything that's going on. We did bring you on earlier to talk about Neal Brown, to talk about,
Mhm.
just that tenure and how that seemed like it was trending in a certain direction. And we just weren't sure though if a decision was going to be made. And before we jump into some candidates, maybe some predictions, some interviews that have happened, before we talk about who may fill the seat, we'll talk about the guy that had the seat. Did
Mhm.
it? Do you think just too much pressure? What was the straw that broke the camel's back? Was it more mutual, or why the divorce? Why the split at the end of this year?
Yeah, I don't know that it was mutual, much less it was just. I think Renbecker saw that the football program wasn't going in the right direction under Neal Brown. Neal did a great job. Laying the foundation. He did. Everything behind the scenes. Graduating players. Locker room chemistry. Team culture. All of that he hit it out of the park. But for whatever reason, come Saturdays, he just was not able to win enough games over ranked teams. Was not able to get West Virginia AP top 25. Was not able to get a marquee win. Just was never able to compete for a conference title. Just was never able to do the things that West Virginia fans are accustomed to. And look, I don't, we never expect to compete for national championships, but we should at least be competing for conference championships once in a while and being ranked in the AP poll. And that just wasn't happening under Coach Brown.
Do you in looking at it, do you think this timeline that they're on right now, like how, what we just talked about this before we sent it live. Man, the portal opened today,
Yeah.
and signing day has already happened, and
Yep.
coaches are falling off the boards, right? Like
Mhm.
they're either sticking with their schools or they're being signed elsewhere.
Right.
It feels a little bit like West Virginia needs to. I don't think they're just intentionally being slow, but is there a reason for the delay? Is it just an uncertainty of who to hire, or what's the holdup here?
I think it's just Ren Becker being diligent. He's extremely detailed. He's extremely analytical, and he likes to go through his process. Uh, but I do think you'll hear something probably within the next 1 to 2 days. I don't think they want to drag it out too long for the reasons you laid out. They do understand that they need a coach in place to work the portal, to work, to try to keep the recruiting class intact, all of that stuff. They need somebody to do that. And so I do think there'll be a decision made probably by middle of the week at least, if not sooner. It may
What are
be out
your
before
thoughts?
you and I release this video.
Yeah, it's a race against the clock. Actually, that's probably good news for us. We'll be back on here in 10 minutes re-recording something. But yeah, I've done about 4 videos in the last month where I said, like, now if something happens in between the time of this recording and
Mhm.
they've all happened. I actually had two
Wow.
that came out on the FSU channel that were just like that today. So, um, college football addiction here with Couz from Couz's Corner. All right, some candidates it feels like it's down to maybe a couple. We'll talk maybe some rumors, some interviews, some other stuff that has happened on the back end too. But it feels like we're maybe down to two candidates. Can you talk to me about the direction you feel like West Virginia is trending towards with a hire?
Yeah, I think it's trending towards either Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator at Penn State, or Rich Rodriguez coming back home to coach the Mountaineers. Uh, Obviously, younger fans know him from his days at Jacksonville State right now, winning Conference USA. But, he was overseeing the West Virginia program from the early 2000s up through 2007 when they were, West Virginia was on the national map competing for, they were one win away from playing for a national title in 2007. So, uh, really the three best years ever under West Virginia or at West Virginia football, 2005, 2006, 2007. He was the head coach for that team. So, it's looking more and more like there's a possibility he could come back home and rewrite the story.
Do you have a preference there?
My preference would be to hire Rich Rod back. Some of that's nostalgia, to be honest, as a fan. And some of it is, I still think he can win. I mean, he's proven he can win at Jacksonville State. He had a decent run at Arizona back after he left Michigan. Back in the day, Arizona was a tough place to win. He did have some success there. And I think he's proven he can win at West Virginia. Now, it's a different time with the NIL portal, but the cool thing about if Rich Rod comes back, He's going to have the support of most of the mega donors at West Virginia. I think you'd see a lot of money flow into the program from a revenue sharing, from NIL, whatever, and also the backing of Pat McAfee, something you can't hide from. Pat McAfee's openly supported bringing Rich Rod back. He has Rich Rodriguez on his show from time to time. Pac-Man Jones, a popular former West Virginia player. There are a lot of positives out there to bringing him back. I don't believe that he was Ren Becker's first choice or is his first choice, but the way the dominoes are falling, it may come down to he's the best option available.
Do you think that you mentioned some of the benefits, the outside benefits coming with Rich Rod? Do you think that some of those would be minimized if they go in another direction, or do you think some of those benefits might still exist if they do go with a different choice?
I don't think you'll get this. You may not get the same amount of support from boosters and donors that you would get with Rich Rod. No, I don't know that any boosters will stop supporting the program, but Rich Rod is still really tight with a lot of the mega boosters at West Virginia. The number one booster at West Virginia, most importantly, they're pretty tight. They're pretty good friends. They're close. There's people like that supporting the hire of Rich Rod. Ren has made it clear he's not going to let that influence his decision, but I do think you'll see, more financial support for the program if he's hired. Now, there's some negatives to it too, which maybe you want to get to. I don't know, but there are some concerns if he's hired as well.
Yeah, we just saw another Big 12 program bring back Scott Frost with UCF, and I think there are a lot of positives there. I think there's a lot of excitement there. Obviously, that was the golden age of the Golden Knights, right? When they brought Scott Frost back, there
they
is
won a national championship.
Yeah, and so there's excitement, but there are risks, and so let's talk about that. What are some of the risks you see?
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to jump ahead there, but the biggest concern for me would be there are still, Rich Rod left in 2007, not under the greatest circumstances. He kind of left in the middle of the night, didn't give a press conference, didn't say goodbye, kind of said some negative things about the school on the way out the door, sued the school. I mean, there are a lot of fans who have never forgiven him for that. I mean, I would say you're going to split the fan base dead in half if you make the hire. So it could be very risky from that perspective to hire Rich Rod. But my theory is once he goes out and starts winning, if he goes out and starts winning, then all of that will be nobody's going to care anymore.
Yeah, water under the bridge. Winning does fix a lot of things.
Yeah.
What are some of the positives if they do go in the other direction and hire an offensive coordinator?
Well, you got somebody hopefully that would be there for, Rich Rod's 61. Now he does say he plans on coaching for at least another 10 to 15 years. So, that's not like tomorrow, but if you bring in somebody like an Andy Kotelnicki who's younger, maybe more energized, it's a new opportunity for him. He may be more driven. He's going to have to earn the support of the boosters and the fans and all that. So maybe he's going to, he'd probably hit the ground running and in that regard and just something fresh and new, right? And with Kotelnicki specifically, you've got a brand new offense, an exciting offense coming to Morgantown that is going to be hard to prepare for and those types of things. So, I mean, there's a newness and a freshness to it that I think is good. But so, I do, and younger, like I said, maybe more energetic, maybe relate easier to today's talent, today's players that you're recruiting. I think that's something you can take into account as well with a younger coach like a Kotelnicki.
We talked about this just off air, but the Jimbo Fisher rumors, the Jimbo Fisher idea, was that something that had real legs to it?
I think it was. I mean, I'm pretty confident he got an interview. It wasn't one of a direction that Ren Becker decided to go. But I do think I am confident that he interviewed for the job. Yes.
Would you have, fandom or covering the team or all those things considered, would you have liked that?
Yeah, I would have. I mean, how often can you get a coach who's won a national championship?
Not often. There ain't that many of them.
There's not a lot of those out there, right?
Yeah.
And I think that carries a lot of weight. If you count his days at LSU under Saban, he's had 2. So, I mean, that carries some weight, in my opinion. And you got a guy who knows the state, who can recruit us, who would be able to preach and promote the culture of the state, bring in the right types of kids. He's a great recruiter. So I would have been on board to bringing Jimbo in, but obviously that wasn't, high on Ren Becker's list, apparently.
If you've got to predict it, which we talked about this a second ago too, if you've got to predict it, who do you think is the next coach for the Mountaineers?
If you had asked me this an hour ago, I'd have said Andy Kotelnicki. but based on some tweets I saw right before I jumped on here, I'm going to say Rich Rodriguez.
There it is.
I'm serious. This thing's changing every hour, man. It's crazy.
Coaching searches are insane. And like you said, there is some urgency. I mean, the portal is out of control today. I mean, the portal is out of control just in college football. But it does feel like, maybe we'll probably have you on in 3 or 4 hours to talk about the news.
By the time you upload this puppy, there's probably going to be a new coach, or there could be a new coach.
Yeah. So, even if we don't get back together, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work and content? Because I know you're breaking this thing down every day, and then once it becomes official, I know you'll have news on that and thoughts there.
Absolutely. You can find me on Couz's Corner over on YouTube. You find me on X at Couz206 if you want to interact with me there. I have a website, couzscorner.com. You can shoot me if you want to shoot me a message. It's the easiest way to do so. And then I also have a basketball channel where I cover West Virginia hoops called Hoops from the Hills. I'll be covering West Virginia basketball over there all season too. So if you want to come check that out. And TJ, it's awesome, always fun to hang out with you, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you do. And I like checking out your content. For anybody watching, does a lot of conference realignment stuff, which we'll have certainly more of that now that we get out of the season again.
Right.
But Couz, I appreciate you a ton for hanging out, buddy.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.